Gets it to the outside. He can't get there. Kevin King is going to win the Barbizzo FTF Cup Series.
Into the lead. Bud gets wrecked in front of the pack. He saves it. 3-4 wide as they come to the white flag.
Here comes Vargas down on the apron. They are 5 wide. Ian Plash will win it at the line. Is this package? Oh, there goes Jordan Lopez Jr. That's your race leader. Caution flag is out.
Still no one willing to give up as they're going to be dead even off of the first chicane.
Oh, he saves it. What's going to happen here? Here comes the canvas.
Get your foot there. He's got it. He's got it. Get there. No.
Canvas is going to win. FTF.GG welcomes you to the virtual Sonoma Raceway from Sonoma, California. Sonoma Raceway, Infineon Raceway, Sears Point, whatever you know this racetrack as, it's been the same since pretty much the start of the century. That's when they last really renovated this place and changed up the layout, I should say. Nonetheless, we're set to go for round 5 of the Penguin RC SimCar Grand Am. Jacob Pitts, Joey Atterbury here with you, Zach Johnson, our producer. It's a sprint and a 45-minute feature event here from Sonoma, and we'll see how everything pans out. Obviously, the 3 different classes that we're used to, the fast, I can't remember what they're actually properly called, the LMP2s, the LMPHs, whatever they are. The faster BMWs, and then you've got the slower cars, the GTs, if you will, both the pro and the amateur level. Should be a lot of fun, Joey.
Yeah, well, Jacob, let me jump in here. It's the LMDH is that class that we're going to refer to them tonight. Is that new hot rod class that you see in IMSA. And I see all the BMWs lined up out there, as well as the GT3 cars, kind of more referred to as the production-based sports cars out there. And you've said we do have 3 classes. That's because that GT3 class has a Pro and an AM class. They do compete in the same cars. However, it is split up between Pro and AM out there with that second GT3 sports car class.
See a wide look at the racetrack. We're doing the traditional NASCAR layout. Now, NASCAR had run this layout for a number of years since they last redid the circuit until right before the pandemic. Then NASCAR decided that, hey, we're going to use the carousel, turns 5 and 6 as we know them. And after, I think they only really ran 1 race here with that, they said, the heck with it, we'll go back to the old way. So it's called Cup Historic on the sim. But really, it's the Cup track that we're familiar with. We'll go through the grid right now. Nate Stewart lining up on pole. Finn Lazier, son of Buddy Lazier. You may know him from his open wheel adventures. He lines up on the outside. Blake Reynolds, Chris Wetz in row number 2. Robert Lowry, Justin Malillo round out row 3 and round out all of our LMDH class. The remainder of your top 10, Christian Youngwall, he's been strong so far this year. Ray Kingsbury to the outside. His brother Matt is in 9th. And John Majorbanks, Lord help me with his last name, he's in 10th.
Yeah, and then we have 11th, JJ Wong out here in the 0-0 car. Next to him is going to be the 0-2 of Cody Crosgrove. Then we have Kevin Fanning here in 13th place. Marwin Mofta, your AM pole sitter there, in 8th overall GT, 14th on the grid. Trevor Greenfield here in 15th overall. Picked Paul Mikolajczyk in 16th. Brian Sohn, Daniel Miglin, Tim Brokaw, Gary Freeman, and just a couple more here. Josh Ondo and Jeff Johnson rounding out the entire grid.
So here comes your field of 6 and 6 cars only. In your LMDH field, obviously the GTs will get rolling just a little later, and I mean just a little bit later. They're heading to turn 11 right now. So Nate Stewart and Finn Lazier on the front row. Green flag. The LMDHs take the green flag. 15 minutes up on the board, so we will roll along until we get to the 15-minute mark. Meanwhile, here come the GTs.
Yeah, really good start for Christian Youngwall out front, and actually Matt Kingsbury is fallen back just a little bit. Matt jumped Ray Kingsbury in the two Audis here, going second and third. John Marshbanks falls back to fifth.
They make their way up the hill, headed down toward turn number 4. One of these really tight corners is one car around. That's J.J. Wong, the lone Ford in the field that takes a hard hit to the inside tire barrier there. And he just lost it coming up over the hill out of 3 and 3A. A lot of damage for him. Meanwhile, here are the LMDHs. They're out of turn 10 to turn 11 to complete their first lap. And they can get around this racetrack in a little over a minute's time. So they have roughly about 10 laps to go. Meanwhile, for J.J. Wong, the rear wing gone from that car, and he has towed it back to the pit lane. A lot of damage to that 0. Here's the replay coming out of turn 3A.
Yeah, you're going to see the 4 GT come up over the crest, and I think it's going to be cold tires on the gas, and it just gets loose and hard impact into that tire wall. You mentioned the rear end damage. Definitely going to have to take that tow back to pit lane.
You see Robert Lowry, he just did a little excavating there coming up through the twisty early part of this racetrack. Got a bit off course, lost a spot to Justin Malillo, drops back to 6th. Meanwhile, another one off. That's Daniel Miglin. There you see him, that multicolored machine with the yellow wheels. He just went off in the amateur class, and he goes off again, coming up out of turn 3A, gets it back on the racetrack, and make his way through turn 4 with some cars in tow behind.
Well, and
as the leaders, go ahead.
Speaking of that turn 3, I have a ton of laps at this racetrack, and it's going to be an area that we're going to watch all night, is up over the crest, that turn 3A complex. Yeah,
look out.
Big problems.
It's turn 10, and that's Cody Cosgrove that really went wide. I don't know how he kept it off the wall, but I'm pretty sure he kept it off the wall coming out of turn number 10. And Joey, you dip the tires in that part of the racetrack, you're pretty much only going in one direction, and that is to that wall. You're right on board, and he just gets a little loose, and he does get a bit of the tires here.
Yeah, just kind of rim rides that tire wall. I'm not sure how much damage he actually has to the side of his car, but kind of escapes from that one. And I think the GT cars, they should have tire temp now, but the thing we got to remember is that this is that 15-minute sprint. I just think we're getting a lot of try it now, see if it's going to work out for the feature.
Here's a nice little cluster of cars. 3rd, 4th, 5th in the GT class. Ray Kingsbury, John Marshbanks, Kevin Fanning. 3, 4, 5 as they make their way through 10.
The head of this train right here is the 2 Kingsburys.
Oh, contact! There goes Kingsbury. Brothers make contact and around in turn 11.
That promotes John Marshbanks. He had the front row seat right there to second place. And yeah, it was just a late break move from the Audi. Got into the BMW, the Kingsbury on Kingsbury contact.
That was just for 3rd place. As Cody Cosgrove, by the way, he has brought his machine to the pit lane after he had his issues. Meanwhile, battle for 2nd, side by side, Lazier and Reynolds. This is in the LMDH class, and Reynolds will fall back to 3rd. Lazier playing defense right now, back to turn 1.
Up the hill we go. Oh, look at this side by side. Flynn going around the outside of turn 2. Power move from the number 4. I'm sorry, that was Nate. I'm sorry, I totally just miscalled that.
Well, that's Blake Reynolds that takes 2 identical cars. It's tough. You're on board. You're on board with Flynn.
Under the bus already.
I was just like, wait, did I screw up? Did I have it flipped?
I did.
Oh my. Well, these things happen. It's early, as now they get through some lap traffic here. That's Josh Ondo that they pass, one of the amateur drivers. Gary Freeman is just up the road, another amateur driver. As you see, Nate Stewart, your race leader overall, he is catching some more lap traffic right now in that GT class.
Now that I've got a beat on things, and I'm actually seeing it clearly. I'm following along with you over here. Yeah, Nate Stewart out front. Blake Reynolds with that nice move that last lap. Flynn Lazier now chasing and going through some GT traffic.
Oh my. Look out. Moving chicanes as they were. And that's going to cost Lazier a little bit of time coming down through turn 4. Here they go to turn 7. And because they skipped that infield portion of the racetrack with the carousel and with the drag strip, they go from turn 4 to 7 and then make their way around through all of the S's. They eventually come out at turn 10, that high-speed right-hander, and then they get to turn 11, the hairpin. Oh, man, close call for Lazier. Out of 10, here they come to 11.
And if we stick on this, we're actually going to be coming up to this GT battle. You see the gaggle of cars that we're coming up to here? This is that battle for P2 and the GT stuff, and it's going to get busier for these LMDH drivers.
It's getting hectic as right now Lazier caught in the way. 3 wide out of turn 2. Almost didn't work. Paul Mikolajczyk trying to get by Brian Son, one of the amateur drivers. And he about ran Flynn Lazier off the road, 3 wide. As here comes Reynolds now, got stuck behind Trevor Greenfield. Marwan Mafta right in the way, and here comes Lazier right to the back rear wing for second place overall and second place in the LMDHs, but now Lazier gets trapped.
And here you see, I think that's our leader, Nate Stewart, working by that GT traffic that we were just mentioning. And then right behind, yeah, look at that. Blake Reynolds, I think he actually has closed in a little bit of time working our way through this GT battle. And that lead Audi that we're looking at, that's John Marshbanks with Ray Kingsbury right behind him.
And Blake Reynolds makes it by both of them just fine and dandy. Now Christian Youngwill is a little bit further up the road from Nate Stewart. That's the leader in the GT class. As here comes Lazier snaking his way past Kingsbury as trouble. Trevor Greenfield is off the track. That's in turn 1. He just got loose getting into turn 1 and then could not make the turn for 1A and took a hard hit to the jersey barriers over there, not the tires. And he is stopped right now. That car severely broken, and he will tow it back to the pit lane.
Unfortunate that he hit that concrete wall over there. Usually you at least make it to the tires, but concrete usually means damage on impact. As we jump back here, this is still John Marshbanks, and if we remember, John was able to kind of see the door open right in front of him, got that 2-for-1 pass in the hairpin at the beginning of the race, and he's held on to the second position quite nicely.
It's a pretty decent margin back to Ray Kingsbury here, as we have just under 6.5 minutes to go. See Chris Wett's right behind these guys. He's one of the LMDHs, stuck right behind Ray Kingsbury. There goes Wetz. He dipped the tires coming out of turn 10 the last lap. Did a little dirt slinging there, but oh, and there goes Ray off course, coming out of 3.
Well, and correct me if I'm wrong here, this is almost looking to be a little bit of deja vu between the Kingsbury brothers going into the hairpin again.
You know, it's starting to catch back up to each other. Matt has got the fishing pole out, and whoa, look out, that's Robert Lowry trying to cut the corner through the S's, and he about took himself out. He's P5, plus Ray Kingsbury, who is 3rd right now in the GT class.
Extremely close call between those two, and I just don't think the GT car was expecting the faster prototype to go up the inside when they've got the downforce to go around the outside of some of those S's. Take a breath, because that was really close.
Sometimes in road racing in particular, you get professional road rage, where you're in a faster car and you get stuck behind one of the slower cars. Gary Freeman's had a problem. He has come to a stop and is now rolling. That is in the S's, far behind everybody. Just lost it coming out of, I believe that's turn 8, nosed it hard into the tires. But he is back rolling, and here comes Nate Stewart, your race leader, flying up on Freeman. He goes now 2 laps down, but will stay out with the damage to the front of the car.
And speaking of Nate, I think this is a really good start to this event. Now, he has had pole position in the past. I'm looking through my notes here. I actually don't see a heat race win or a feature win for Nate. So if he can hold this together for another 4 minutes, this would be a very good start to Sonoma.
And it would, and right now he is trying to bring it home in one piece, as he has just 4 minutes to go. You're right on board through the S's with the Sunoco machine.
Crazy how much grip and downforce these cars make through those S sections.
Here's the inside view of the Sunoco machine, the BMW, making his way up through turns 1 and 1A. That thing is on rails, an almost 4-second gap back to Blake Reynolds, who is in second. And then another 2 seconds or so back to Flynn Lazier, rather. No really close battles on the racetrack. The closest one right now, third position in the GT class between John Marshbanks and Ray Kingsbury. Here they are, back to the start-finish line.
Yeah, this is that battle, and it's gone through a couple different accordions. John's doing a really good job just to hit his marks out front in the Audi, and sometimes there's a few moves by Ray. It kind of stretches out a little bit. You see him show the nose there going into 3A, but not really a place that you can make a move on this racetrack.
Last week at Long Beach, rather 2 weeks ago at Long Beach, Nate Stewart finished 6th in the GT, or rather in the LMDH class, which was last out of everybody, or just about last out of everybody in that class, last out of everybody running. Rebounded to finish 2nd in the main event later on that night. He is putting on a clinic thus far, as he is coming more than likely to 2 laps to go here. Here's the battle once again in the GT spot. Battle further on behind. That's Matt Kingsbury. Kevin Fanning has caught him. Faster cars in the way. That's Justin Melillo trying to sneak his way through.
Justin being very respectful in his prototype, trying to creep through the
Oh,
GT
who's
traffic.
that? Oh, man, that was Gary Freeman. Saw GT just go off. It was Freeman who's already a couple down. Going wide there, coming out of 1A, just trying to give everybody room. On board with Melillo to turn 4, and once again stays right behind Kingsbury, but for Fanning, I'm sure he's furious right now.
Yes, it's definitely separating that GT pack, but I think Justin was doing the respectful thing. He was just trying to get through there without contact in a safe manner.
Battle for the lead. Blake Reynolds has caught Nate Stewart. How did that happen? Nate Stewart about ran up the back of Brian Son in the last lap. We are coming to the white flag. This is through the S's. Blake Reynolds has picked up more than 2 seconds in this last lap and is on the back door of Nate Stewart. Coming to the white flag. Here they go to turn 11.
Look at this. Blake Reynolds going wide on entry, trying to square up the exit, put the power down, but that Sunoco machine of Nate Stewart out front, great launch out of the hairpin.
White flag. 1 more lap to go in the sprint. Stewart starting to reset the pace. He's scoping the gap back up to a half second. There is lap traffic up the road that could be a factor before we end this race. They're right in front. Stewart gets stuck in line. That allows Reynolds to close. Here they go to turn 4. Reynolds all over the rear wing. Stewart to the inside. Reynolds right on him. Into turn 7. 3 wide with lap traffic right in front. That's Matt Kingsbury. He is 4th in the GT class. He's in front of Stewart. Reynolds all over the back bumper. Here they come through the S's.
gotta be careful where you make this move if you're Flynn Lazier, but he's setting him up for the hairpin.
Reynolds to the outside. Stewart gonna push him wide. Dips a tire. Side by side. Into turn 11. Battle for second in the GT class. They park the bus. And Blake Reynolds goes by on the inside. 4 wide. Blake Reynolds is going to win the sprint in a dramatic class lap at Sonoma. Are you kidding?
Yeah, he stole that away, and it was right in front of the P2 GT fight for the podium as well. And I mean, how do you top that one? Talk about literally stealing it.
Ray Kingsbury sent it in way back on Marshbanks, and because of that, it cost Nate Stewart the win of the heat. Here's the replay. There's the contact. They park the bus. Blake Reynolds says, thank you very much, and good night.
I mean, that's multi-class racing right there.
Oh, my gosh. Blake Reynolds, your winner. Nate Stewart, second. Flynn Lazier had a shot to maybe catch up a little bit, but he gets it to third. Chris Sweat's fourth. Robert Lowry, fifth. Justin Melillo in sixth. Looking back through the rest here. Christian Youngwall, he will win the GT class. John Marshbanks in eighth. Ray Kingsbury, ninth. Matt Kingsbury in 10th. Your winner in the amateur class, there you see Mara and Mofta, their 12th in the Audi.
Yeah, and then here in, let's see here, 13th, we've got Brian Son, then Paul Mikolajczyk there in 14th. Tim Brokaw, another AM car, 15th. Daniel Miglin, Josh Ondo, Gary Freeman, and then you're looking at the rest of these cars several laps down. Trevor Greenfield and Cody Crosgrove out there.
JJ Wang, we saw him crash, and Jeff Johnson registered, showed up. I'm not sure if he set a lap in practice, but he did not qualify, and I don't even think he's still in the session right now. So Ray Kingsbury says the ABS didn't work very well, and that's why the contact was made. They're in a warm-up session right now. We will step aside. When we come back, the endurance race, 45 minutes. Here from Sonoma when we come back here on FTF.GG. We are back here from Sonoma, and Joey, I'm still trying to catch my breath from that finish of the sprint. Unreal with the slower GT cars in the way of the prototypes, and nowhere for Nate Stewart to go, and once again, a bridesmaid here in SimCar.
Tough. Now, it's tough, but it's racing, and it's multi-class racing, and we were talking about it during the break there, is that if you're one of these prototype drivers, it's really difficult to forecast what's happening, but that was coming up to a GT lead battle for a podium, and they threw it into the hairpin just like he was expecting something to get thrown in on him, and a lot of variables there happen at the same time.
Man, oh man. If Twitch would please just let me clip the finish of this race. I beg of you. Come on, Twitch. Cooperate with me. Nonetheless, feature time here at Sonoma. And it's set just about the same way that they finished. From the heat. Blake Reynolds, Nate Stewart out in front. Again, your top 6 prototype drivers out in front. And then, well, the rest. And they'll set it up, do it again, do it for 45 minutes this time. And I would imagine here, Joey, that we are going to enter the conversation of having to make a pit stop in this 45-minute race.
Yes, we'll have to see that pit strategy play out, see if there's some undercuts, overcuts going on. And one thing to note about that pit stop is that the delta on this pit lane is actually quite long. You enter it way back there by the entrance of the hairpin and come out pretty much after turn 1.
Field still not yet rolling. See the 45 minutes up on the clock. Now they'll start to roll, and they'll get to do one lap, get the tires all up to speed, and once again, like we saw in the 15-minute sprint when we got the green flag, the prototypes took it first. It gave themselves plenty of room back to the GTs. Now, the slower cars start second. So, Joey, why in the world would they need to give themselves that amount of room, especially when you only have 6 prototypes here? Why do you got to give that amount of room between these two classes when you get the start?
I mean, there's a couple different theories of looking at it, and I think the most apparent one is that if you don't leave any space and there's a crash in the prototypes, then these GT cars are literally piling into cars stopped at turn 1. So they prefer to leave a little bit of space. That way, if anything happens in front of them, the track gets cleaned up. They don't have to worry about it, and they get to have their own race without worrying about it.
Good point, just in case they do, junk it. It's happened. All right, well, here we go. So the prototypes are coming through turn 8 right now. They'll make their way to 9 and 10. And these 6 will set up for 45 minutes. Strategy on the mind. And, oh, by the way, you're going to have to snake your way through a lot more slower traffic this time around. Got to do it a lot in that 15-minute sprint. Triple it here for the 45-minute feature. Blake Reynolds and Nate Stewart on the front row. Around the final corner. Through the hairpin. And we will get the show underway. 45 minutes up on the board. Blake Reynolds brings us to the green flag. The prototypes are off, all 6 of them off and away. Blake Reynolds gets the early jump. Here comes Flynn Lazier to the inside of Nate Stewart. Stewart now going to try and go and take the lead to turn number 1. He'll take it away. Meanwhile, here come the GTs.
Once again, Christian Youngwall gets a fantastic start. This time it's Ray Kingsbury that slots into second. John Marshbanks into third. Really single file throughout the top 5, 6 GT cars as they all crest the hill and head towards turn 3.
Oh, we got one sideways. That's Trevor Greenfield that's around at the back of the pack. Coming out of turn 1A. Another turn 2, and now, Josh Ondo gets booted wide. This is out of 3. got caught up with Cody Cosgrove, got the grass, and then came up the racetrack and got booped out of the way. Some damage for his car. Right now, here come the prototypes to finish their first lap. Nate Stewart out of turn 11 first. He will lead them around. Meanwhile, the GTs coming through turn 10. Once again, Christian Youngwall leading the pack around, and he is pulling away like he did in the sprint. Kingsbury and Marshbanks second and third. Marshbanks trying to return the favor a little bit there on Kingsbury, making their way out of 11, but Kingsbury prevails. That's Ray, at least for the time being.
You saw Marshbanks get in there pretty deep on the brakes going into the hairpin, but was able to collect it all back up as we watch Christian Youngwall just kind of control the pace. And really, we didn't even talk about Christian during that heat because he just put it on cruise control out front, and I think he's planning to do the same thing here.
Battle for second overall between teammates. Got Reynolds and Lazier. Reynolds start trying to scoot away just a little bit. Again, they make their way through 11. And back to the start-finish line. Trouble Josh Ondo. He has crashed. That's turn 4. Gone around, looped it. He's at the back of the field. But the amateur driver having some issues there. There was no contact. Just got over the curbs and lost it. Nate Stewart. Oh, man, Lazier about went head on into that tire barrier. And that spot is a death trap coming out of turn 4. The curb in the middle of the racetrack. You hit that the wrong way, you've got the tires to catch you, and that's it.
Well, especially in one of these types of cars, you really kind of go bouncing over the curbs if you hit them at the wrong angle. And not only that, but if you hit the apex curb wrong, that can send you out into the exit curb.
I always thought that curb was a bad idea, but nonetheless, it's still there.
Well,
is he right on board?
I've got a personal relationship with that specific curb, and let me tell you, in real life, it is very, very tall.
And looks like Daniel Miglin has become the second victim of the curb tonight. Once again, except he caught the wall on the other side, the concrete, the damage to the front of that BMW. Here's the replay of Miglin, the amateur, right behind Paul Mikolajczyk. And he hits the curb the wrong way. Around she goes, and wham.
That's a tough one into the concrete wall, too. You know, you saw it just got loose, and, man, that's a heavy impact.
Oh, boy. Lap traffic already a factor. Blake Reynolds and Lazier came flying up on Ondo. We've seen a couple of issues out of him, and now it's a ball game here for the second place overall.
Well, and this time it is Flynn Lazier looking to the inside of Blake Reynolds going through the hairpin.
A little bit of redemption there, side by side. Reynolds prevailing on the inside. Lazier going to try it the long way around, going into 1A. And maybe into 2, and now 3. And Reynolds will just give the spot to his teammate.
And so we talked about the pit stop strategy just very, very briefly on pre-grid. And one other thing is I wonder if there's a couple different setup options going on between two teammates, as it looks like Interstate 5 traffic out there.
Oh my, look at this. Trying to snake their way through. You know, the faster GTs have already made their way to 11. But, yeah, parking lot right now. Trying to get through Robert Lowry, Chris Wett, some of these faster guys. Trying to snake their way right on through. This is the battle for second in the GT class. Ray Kingsbury there. Marshbanks behind. They both go wide, coming out of 3. And now Daniel Miglin has towed it. He just pulled off in turn 11 and towed the car. I think he perhaps has given up for the time being after getting blown by some of those faster cars.
Watching these GT cars go through the S's, they got a lot more give and take to him, a lot more body roll than those prototype cars, and just kind of interesting to watch. The differences between the BMW that we're seeing, the Audi give and chase, you know, I think it's Christian's up there in an Audi leading the race as well, but I always like the variety between the GT cars.
Instead of just BMW, right? We've got one lone Ferrari in Mikolajczyk making his debut. We've got the Audis, the BMWs. JJ is in a Ford. I think that's all the diversity that we have here this evening. Battle for second once again. Marshbanks trying to get by Kingsbury. Kingsbury got by him pretty early here. As the leaders, the faster prototype leaders, are on their way. You're right on board with Nate Stewart. You see the second and third in the GT class just up the road.
Well, and look what's right behind Nate Stewart. Flynn Lazier, in the matter of just the last couple laps with the help of GT traffic, is now only a half a second back.
Whoa, Kingsbury, look out. That's Matt that drifted off. Here comes Stewart trying to get through. Second and third in the GT class. And Lazier trying to close the gap with still a long way to go. 37 minutes and roughly 30 seconds here from Sonoma. Still a lot of racing left, plus a pit stop.
I'm really impressed with I would say the speed difference that we're seeing out of the number 3 car. You know, I miscalled it all during the heat race, but here he is up front battling for the lead. And I wonder if they had a heat race setup versus a feature race setup, and maybe this one's just working better.
What seems to be right now for Flynn Lazier in that 3, trying to chase down the 4 of Nate Stewart. That last time by, Lazier a second faster. See how it is here this time around. Obviously, lap traffic having a part in that. See at the line here, but it looks like Stewart has started to pull away already. And that time, Lazier only 1/10 faster by the end of the lap. A 1:02.2 for Stewart, a 1:02.1 for Lazier as they make their way up toward the hill.
You can tell, though, Nate's pushing the car. He went a little bit wide there with a little understeer through turn 1. He's definitely noticing that car in the back. And you got to wonder what's going through Nate Stewart's head right now. You know, he's been probably the fastest car on paper. Oh, no, we got problems with the 05 out here. I'm sorry, that's the 71. Chris Wetz.
Man, that's one of the prototypes. He's going to lose that spot to Justin Malillo. He falls all the way back to 6th. That's coming into turn number 3 or coming out of 2. And, man, he just lost it. And now he's off track again. I think that thing's broke, Joey.
Oh, it's definitely broke. I think that the rear axle is all sorts of busted, and car's not turning how it needs to.
We'll try and limp that thing around and get it to pit road. Ray Kingsbury is pulled away from John Marshbanks for that second spot in the GT class. Closest battle now, Kevin Fanning and Marwin Ofta. The only thing that matters here, overall positions, is now Matt Kingsbury just up the road. He has dropped back a little bit, so you've got Mofta, the leader in the amateur class, by 1.5 seconds over Brian Son. And then you've got Fanning and Kingsbury here fighting for position in the GT Pro class.
Audi, BMW, Audi, BMW, I feel out here, and it seems to be the popular choice at Sonoma. And you called it, Marwin Mofta, that silver Audi, the leader in our GT AMs. He's doing a great job trying to go up there and sneak away or steal away a couple more GT overall positions for himself.
Chris Wetz has now been passed by Christian Youngwall. He is still on the pit lane, as Wetz now will fall behind those GT drivers.
Oh, a little wide out of Kevin Fanning in that black BMW out there. You see Marwin all up under the rear wing of that 441 here. See if he gets an opportunity. I don't think he's going to be close enough to maybe do a late break move here, but maybe he might be able to set him up into the hairpin if he gets a nice run through the S's.
Try. Let's see what they can do here. Out of turn 7. Through the S's. Turn 10. Continue to ride on board with Mafta, the leader in the amateur class. Son a good ways bit behind him. Once again, Flynn Lazier has caught Nate Stewart in a hurry. The reason, stuck behind lap traffic of Trevor Greenfield, and Lazier is just 3 car lengths back. Here he goes for the lead.
Oh, late on the brakes from Flynn Lazier. No contact, just a little bit of rubbing, and rubbing is racing.
Flynn Lazier to the front at Sonoma. Nate Stewart drop kick back to second. Now they make their way back up the hill. Lazier, your winner 2 weeks ago in Long Beach. You saw a car off the pace there. That's Gary Freeman that pulled off, I think, to get out of the way. He gets it rolling.
Jumping back, this is that battle for P2 in GT. This has been kind of swapping back and forth. And
oh, man! Oh, Lazier about ran up the back of Tim Brokaw through the S's. That allowed Nate Stewart to close up. But just like that, Lazier scoots away again, opens the gap up. I mean, he about drop-kicked Brokaw through the S's. One of the amateur drivers was way off the pace, and he about paid the price.
You couple maybe a little bit of off the pace, plus the speed difference between those prototype cars and the GTs, and it can be pretty dramatic, the closing rate out there.
Especially when you're not necessarily expecting it. We'll drift back once again to the battle for second in the GT class. Here he goes. Marshbanks to the inside of Kingsbury in 7. This will be dicey.
This is the same type of move that Marshbanks put on Kingsbury just a couple laps ago, and I really feel like the Audi, it might just be a little bit more suited to Sonoma than the BMW. However, in the heat race, it was the other way around, and Ray Kingsbury was applying the pressure to John Marshbanks.
So evenly matched, these two. It's right on board on the top of Marshbanks. They make their way, roughly 30 minutes to go in this feature race from Sonoma, California. Back to turn 1. We'll see if Marshbanks can close the gap at all here on this end of the racetrack before they get back to turn number 7, where he tried to dive it onto the inside. And I thought for a moment, Joey, that they were going to go side by side and wheel to wheel through the S's, which at Sonoma is darn near impossible to do.
It is, but I think this is the area of the racetrack where the Audi's good. Look at this. John's really trying to show the nose, be aggressive on, call it the opposite end of the racetrack, where you're down at the end of the drag strip from where you are at start-finish.
Banks, I think, maybe just trying to play a little cat and mouse right now. As here comes one of your leaders flying by. That is Lazier, the overall race leader. Blake Reynolds about had a moment coming through the S's, but he's okay. Now looks like Kingsbury has opened up just a slight bit of a gap over Marshbanks, as Nate Stewart will go flying by here.
Gets through nice and easy. Oh, no. Problem
Oh, that's
here.
Mikolajczyk. that's off. That's turn 9. Going into 10. Or no, turn 8. It's early.
That's at the...
He already had a little bit of damage. And wow. That's in the S's.
Yeah, that's coming basically into the S's, or the middle of the S's there. And you saw heavy, heavy damage on the right side of the car. The left side doesn't look too bad, but I tell you what, the right rear looks pretty bad.
2 acts. That's why. This is Act 1. On the gas over the hill. Into the tires. That breaks the car. Meanwhile, your leaders are on pit road. Nate Stewart is on pit road.
There you see part 2. That's where we picked him up when he was stuck out there with the damage already on the car. And you called it. Our leader's on pit road.
That's Nate Stewart, who was in second. You see Mikolajczyk just in front of him. And Kingsbury and Marshbanks, once again, did get side by side. They're back to single file now. Kingsbury remaining out in front, but you see Stewart in his box. The question now, when will we see Lazier and Reynolds pit back once again to this battle for second?
This is that strong side of the racetrack for that Audi. And I feel like once he goes through the S's here, he just kind of loses a little bit of legs down into the hairpin. It seems like the Audi faster through the slower parts of the racetrack.
Nate Stewart back out on the racetrack and is back rolling. Chris Wetz is also back rolling after his issues in the prototype. He is 18th, 7 laps down to the leader after getting the damage fixed to his car. Let's travel back a little further back in the GT class as Blake Reynolds has stopped. Hold on, Blake Reynolds has stopped. Reynolds has an issue. He has gone around. He has damage to the rear of the car. He lost it going into turn number 1 and slapped the tire barrier. Big damage for Blake Reynolds and a meatball flag for your sprint winner. That right front tire is not doing right front tire things right now.
You see it completely seized up, and we're going to catch the replay. Watch him just get loose at the top of turn 1 here. And I got to say, that's a pretty common thing. The car is so loaded up on the right side. You're transitioning from the throttle to the brakes, and the weight goes to the front. All of a sudden starts to turn too much.
Right on board. Oof. See the front clip break. That's where the damage to the right front comes from. Pops off and then desyncs back onto the car. Meanwhile, he'll try and limp that thing back to pit road. He's in the S's right now, trying not to be a hindrance to those around the racetrack. He does have a good amount of clean room behind him. But let's focus for a moment on the car. 6th place in the GT class. He is leading the amateur class. That's Marwan Mafta in the 191, and he is closing in on Kevin Fanning right now for the 5th position in the GT class. The Dirt Esport driver had a good run so far.
Having a fantastic run out here in that 191. GTM leader, like you were saying, and I mean, he is the GTM leader by 5+ seconds over Brian Son right now, so really dominating his class.
And then after that, he has almost a lap back to Tim Brokaw, who is 3rd in class. Blake Reynolds has made his way to the pit lane, but he's going to lose a couple laps. This is Kingsbury and Marshbank side by side in the S's. 2nd on the racetrack in the GT class. Great stuff from Kingsbury to hold on. And that's allowed Matt Kingsbury to close up. This is 2nd, 3rd, and 4th to turn 11.
He is throwing everything and the kitchen sink at Ray Kingsbury to try to get around, but that BMW just seems to have a little bit of legs through the S's and is able to keep the Audi at a kind of a arm's length distance behind him. But here we go into turn 1.
Looking again, he'll try and set him up. Ray and Matt, brothers, they made contact back in the sprint race. Defensive line from Kingsbury with Marshbanks to the top of the hill, and Marshbanks can't quite hold on. We'll see if he can close in, headed to 4. out the back window of Ray.
This is the area of the racetrack where Marshbanks has been very aggressive and very fast. Let's see, he doesn't get the run out. You see him get a big wiggle, and that actually allows the other Kingsbury to close in.
And Ray is able to scoot away just a little bit, trying to escape from Marshbanks and perhaps cool them off. Blake Reynolds joins the program. Blake, how bad's the damage and what happened?
Oh, we are done, Jacob. We are out of the race. 13 minutes required. When it's light on fuel, I was trying to back up that uphill, and something in the energy recovery just didn't like that braking technique, and the rear skipped, and I wrecked off to the left up the hill.
Enough break for driver 66. 2 weeks from now, though, get to go to a different racetrack. Get to go to Daytona for an endurance-style event. That's, as I mentioned, not for 2 weeks, but you like your odds? Headed to the High Banks, the World Center of Racing?
Of course, Daytona's probably one of the best endurance tracks in iRacing, so always look forward to that. Yeah, it's going to be our second and last endurance event in the SimCard Championship here. Our first one at Le Mans was pretty good, and I'm pretty sure at Daytona we might do... we haven't decided yet. We're very impromptu here. It's just whatever everyone thinks is fun. We might do morning to day, or night to day, or day to night. We did day to night at Le Mans, so that was a hit. We might do it again.
There you go. Well, Blake Reynolds, unfortunately, out of this race after the crash. Thanks, Blake.
Yeah, thank you. But I'm going to sit in the booth. Because what else is a wrecked driver supposed to do?
I guess. Matt
So
Kingsbury
if
is
you'll
on
have
pit
me.
road. Sure. Kingsbury goes to pit road. Right when we brought Blake in, we saw John Marshbanks come to pit road. So drivers in the GT class starting to make their way to the pit lane to try and make their first stop.
Yeah, it's looking
Here
just...
we got Cody Crosgrove on screen, and Cody has yet to come into pit, but he's actually doing a fantastic job, up 10 positions since the start of the race. I know there is some pit stop cycles going on, but 0-2 doing a good job right now.
Kingsbury down and away. Justin Melillo is currently on the pit lane. So the battle that Ray Kingsbury was facing is now done. There you see Melillo. So Kingsbury can breathe easy for now in that 01 machine as he comes out of turn 10. He'll stay out for another lap, but he was facing a lot of pressure, Blake, over these last couple laps. Now he can breathe easy. Has 2 seconds back to Kevin Fanning in front of him. The problem is the race leader in the GT class is 11 seconds up the road.
Yeah, Christian is a ripper. As the stats show, he has won a lot of races this season, so it is no surprise that he's running away with it. Actually, has he yet to come to pit road? I'm curious.
Correct.
I'm curious what he'll do. I don't know. The tires seem to be falling off quite a bit, at least the LMDH class. The GT class, I don't really know. The braking zones, I'll just say this. The braking zones have been incredibly close tonight between the classes. Like, the moment we hit the brakes, those GT3 cars, actually into the hairpin, some of those GT3 guys are out braking the prototype class. So it's quite the interesting little difference this track is producing.
Well, we know Ray Kingsbury is after we saw the finish to that sprint. Nonetheless, trouble. Who is that blown up? Brian Son, that's second place in the amateur class.
Oh no!
And he has had some major issues with his
wipers
car.
are on.
Huh. Let's take a look. This is through the S's, headed to turn 10. And that's why.
Well, and
Hard hit to the tires.
you saw him get pretty wiggly coming out. I wonder if he already had damage on the car, maybe a little bit of rear end damage, because as soon as he turns left here, car gets really loose, and then it's just all game over from there.
He's probably light on fuel. The tires, that's maximum load. Two or three of the maximum load corners on this lap. That's probably what happened. Maybe cooked the right rear right when he turned in. It just went around. A very slow spin for Brian.
Flynn Lazier, there you see him. He continues to stay out and pace the way. Robert Lowry has made his stop in the prototype class. So Lazier, your race leader, the only one that has not come to pit road, and Mikolajic has crashed. He tows it right away. What in the world happened to Paul? That's his second crash of the race. This is in between turns 2 and 3. And Joey, it almost looks like he dipped the tires and just lost it.
You see there's still some right side damage on the car. Yeah, it's exactly what happened is he just kind of got off on the left side of the racetrack, probably tried to feed in some throttle and wheel spin off to the right it went.
Cody Cosgrove is on the pit lane. Flynn Lazier is flying around. Oh, Nate Stewart has crashed. That's second place. Big damage for Nate Stewart. And he lost it all by himself going down into turn 11. Lost it under braking and backed it into the tire barrier. This
Big
is
mistake.
second place overall.
Wow. And that's the energy braking. It kind of happened to me, but much more severe for Nate here. Straight braking, he tried to get everything he could out of it. And the rears just trying to charge the battery, and they kind of lock up. They start chirping. Spun around real quick like that.
And for Nate Stewart, he had the sprint race won until the GT cars in front of him dove bomb each other. Blake Reynolds was able to sneak by on the inside and win the thing, and now, where he thought maybe the strategy would go his way, issues under braking puts the Sunoco machine into the tires and out of winning contention here from Sonoma. Wow.
That'll put Justin Malillo on the podium, it looks like. Because Chris Wetz is
It would.
also several down.
Yeah, Wetz had his issues early on in the race. He is still 7 laps down. Lowry has made his stop. Malillo is 2 down to the leader, 1 down to Lowry. But obviously Lazier still has to make his stop, so that would allow Malillo to get one of those laps back. How about J.J. Wong in the 4? He has really impressed tonight. 4th in the GT class. He's some 8.5 seconds back from Marwan Mafda, who is the amateur leader. So Wong 3rd in the GT Pro class.
Pit stop cycles. Oh, look at the prototype have to weave out of the way. They're playing a little bit of Frogger and a Costco parking lot, if you will. And but JJ doing a really good job. I know that the GT cars are going through the pit stop strategy cycle right now, but we documented the problems that he had in the heat race, keeping it together in the feature as we see our GT leaders. And Jacob, I'm actually curious to see where John Marshbanks pops out into this, if he's going to do the undercut on the Kingsburys.
It's going to be tough. Here's why. Marshbanks is already behind Kevin Fanning. Fanning was behind those guys when they first made their stop. Marshbanks is some 2 seconds back on Fanning, and he is not going to get out in front of Kingsbury. In fact, he's going to be a good 3 or so seconds behind. There you see Matt Kingsbury. He is within range of Marshbanks. So Kevin Fanning leapfrogs a couple here. Marshbanks did not have a good pit stop. Some second and a half slower than everybody around him.
Yeah, I'm
and
showing
that cost
Kingsbury
him a lot of valuable track time.
Sorry, Jacob. I'm showing Kingsbury with a 40.5 in the lane and Marshbanks with a 42.6. So maybe just not calculated the fuel correctly. Maybe just didn't really get into the pit entry as good as Kingsbury. Who knows?
Well, even looking at the box time, Ray Kingsbury a 12.9, Marshbanks a 14.4.
Yeah, that means more fuel fill time. It could be just different fuel consumption between the drivers. And I was curious because I thought Marshbanks was doing a great job on the racetrack in terms of the lap times that he was putting down. But you guys are right. You know, pit stops, times, and those delta, that is crucial.
in road racing, that is where the races are won, especially here in SimCar. We've seen it multiple times this season.
14 minutes to go. Glenn Lazier still out in front. He still has yet to make his pit stop. Here's the line of GT cars plus Chris Wetz. That's Marshbanks, Matt Kingsbury, and Cody Cosgrove. 4th, 5th, and 6th in the GT Pro class. Here comes Flynn Lazier to the pit lane. Marwan Mafta is crashed, or was crashed. He straightens it back out, but we talked about how well he was doing. He dipped the tires coming out of turn 2 and went for a slide, kept it off the wall. Here's the replay of the issue with Mafta here out of 2.
Gonna see him, yeah, just a tiny bit wide over the crest of the hill. You got nothing.
Oh, crash! Kingsbury and Cosgrove crash coming out of turn 11. This is for position. They made contact going in right here. Cosgrove, wham, into Kingsbury. He straightens him out, and Kingsbury comes back and wipes him out.
That looks penalty worthy.
Doesn't look good, does it?
Considering I'm the one who does the penalties, or me and Ray Kingsbury, well, oh man.
Now, his claim was that it knocked his steering wheel out of his hands, the contact.
You know,
and Cosgrove disputes that.
I've heard that one on TV, too, before. I'm pretty sure Bubba came off of turn 4 and had a broken steering.
Yeah, but those blue gloves in the 21, they certainly tell a story.
Well, let's see. Let's take a look-see here. See if we can't see the steering wheel. Still can't see the steering wheel. There we go. Oh. Yeah. Trouble. We'll try it once more. He's turning. Oh, he's turning. Uh-oh. Yeah.
You got all that wheel spin. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, but that's a Matt Kingsbury classic. I've known Matt for about 10 years now, and not surprised.
Well, yeah, and I'm sure he wasn't happy that he got hit getting in. That would be the second time that he got hit. The first time was in the sprint by his brother. The second time around, it's by Cody Cosgrove, and Cosgrove ultimately pays the price there by going around. But Matt
Cody's car
Kingsbury
looks cleaner.
playing the law. Yeah, Kingsbury playing the law, and the law's going to win in this case. 11 minutes to go. There's Lazier. He's out in front by 13 seconds over Robert Lowry after Lazier just made his one and only pit stop. Just a reminder of stuff upcoming here on FTF. FTF 1 is back tomorrow night from Phoenix. The graphic is true this week. Most Saturdays for the Barvigil FTF Cup Series. They're on Sunday night this week because the trucks are racing in Kansas on Saturday night, so we take one more day. We're back Sunday, 8 o'clock from Kansas. After that, Winsdale at the same time at Charlotte. And then Candace's Underdog Fantasy deal is back. Rockingham 508 rather, qualifying Tuesday, 508 on Wednesday night. The NASCAR qualifying iRacing series will be Thursday next week from Darlington. And we are back in 2 weeks at Daytona for an endurance event here in SimCar. Find all that more here on FTF.gg. 10 minutes to go.
Tell you what, Jacob, I'm probably racing most of those.
Yeah, and I'm probably supposed to be working most of those. Doesn't mean I'll make it, but...
Well.
Oh, shot of Justin Malillo there, and that is Marshbanks. Was battling with Fanning. They got close, but Fanning able to pull away here, and that 441 for third.
And actually, I think that Marshbanks, he just got a poor run out of the hairpin, but he has been closing in on Kevin Fanning in this BMW. So I think if you look at the data, I think we should have a battle on our hands if it continues to trend the same way.
And they
Super
are
close to
also
the
catching.
wall.
They're also catching Ray Kingsbury, who is in second. Fanning's only about a second and a half back, so we've got the final 9 minutes here. And we may have yet another battle for second, third, and fourth in the GT Pro class, similar to what we saw in the sprint race.
Well, and I'm just noticing this because I've been enjoying watching the racing and the pit stop strategy. We are definitely running out of time out there, so perfect time for this GT battle to close up.
No better time than now to get digging here and to try and get yourself on the podium for the class.
I've been real impressed with Kevin Fanning tonight. Incredible
Yep.
pace, kept it clean, good pit execution. Looking for the right word there. I run a 10.444 last lap. That's one of the fastest laps on the night, I believe, other than Christian Youngwall.
And he was able to come out there on strategy by a little bit to get where he is right now. And wind up passing Kingsbury and Marshbanks to put himself in position to be in this third spot as he continues to close in on Ray Kingsbury. That last time by, Fanning was a half a second faster. We'll see what it is here at the start-finish line this time by. The difference, about 0.6 of a second. So Fanning is closing for second with 7 minutes to go. Is it enough time?
The ebb and flow of the battle out there, it almost seems like when Marshbanks caught Fanning, like you guys were saying, Fanning's doing a great job picking up the pace and now closing it in. Might have 3 cars to settle the podium here for GT.
Gonna have to catch up a little bit more, Marshbanks is, to have a shot here.
I've been watching Ray Kingsbury here. He's putting in a lot of wheel. I think he's starting to get a little tight, especially in these slower corners. That's where Kevin's kind of beating him. The fast corners, Kingsbury's a little sideways, so maybe all 4 tires are gone, but definitely in the slower corners, Kevin has definitely got him.
Now, Marshbanks, just to note, by the way, he is on older tires than Fanning by about 5 laps, than Kingsbury by 6. So I think that's why Marshbanks has fallen off a little bit, and it may be just a 2-horse race for the second position in the GT class with 6 minutes to go.
Ooh, Kingsbury just a little bit
We have a crash!
wide.
Second place has crashed! Robert Lowry has crashed in turn 9! Hard into the tires and then back across the racetrack. This is going to put Justin Malillo in second spot.
Oh my.
Here's the replay.
Robert might still be on the podium because Chris Wetz is 7 laps behind. There's not enough time, I don't think, for Wetz to catch Lowry. Lowry might still be on the podium.
What in the world happened here? Oh, we just lost it. On
Real easy
throttle.
to do. Real easy to do,
Oh.
especially with the hybrid deployment.
So that's all but 2 of our prototypes that have smashed it up. Lazier has kept it clean, and Malillo has kept it clean. Meanwhile, just in front of Malillo, the battle for second in the GT class. 5 minutes to go.
You see right in front of Malillo, Fanning right on the back of Ray Kingsbury, and he was actually taking a look into the hairpin that last lap. So I really feel like the 441 of Kevin Fanning, like you guys were saying, definitely turning it up here.
Gonna have just a couple more laps to go before this thing is said and done. Fanning gets really close to the back bumper. of Kingsbury as they make their way through the S's.
Jacob, this is where we had trouble from Ray Kingsbury. He pushed wide here in this fast sweeper last time out. Looks like he's able to hit the apex this time. And here comes Malillo.
I think Justin
Takes
will.
his time.
Yeah, he'll be nice and easy here. Oh, and
But here's
Flynn.
the overall leader. Yeah, this is Flynn Lazier. Puts Malillo a second lap down. And here he comes now through the GT cars with just under 4 minutes to go.
I think that
Trouble,
was
turn one. Who is that off pace? That's Gary
Freeman.
Freeman a couple laps down. He lost it through turn one, and he is slow trying to get up the hill.
Meanwhile, Crosgrove is catching Kingsbury. Half a second that last lap.
He's on a couple lap fresher tires as well. Kingsbury a little loose there over the curbs. And Marshbanks isn't out of the woods yet. He could have a fight in this battle.
I think Fanning got in a little bit deep there on the brakes, almost got into the back of Ray, came on the radio. I think he apologized there, but no harm, no foul. They still continue on in this battle, and look at this, Fanning with a fantastic run going towards the hairpin.
Chris Wett's the lap car who crashed earlier in that prototype to the inside, and that's going to allow Kingsbury to scoot away because he gets to the inside of Fanning. That allows Marshbanks to close. 3 to go, I think, for these guys.
It's always a question. Yeah, where's the prototype leader versus where is the GT going to cross the line? And I think that also comes into the fuel strategy game. You got to make sure you got enough fuel in the car.
If you got to go one more lap, that's a long 2 miles around this racetrack here at Sonoma. So Flynn Lazier leading the prototype class, leading overall. There he is. He's out in front by 2 laps over Justin Malillo. Somebody just crashed in turn 1. Was that Freeman? It was Freeman again. He tows it back to the pit lane. Meanwhile, the interesting battle is for second in the GT Pro class. Youngwall is some 20 seconds up the road, but at Kingsbury, Fanning and Marshbanks are having a whale of a fight here still in second, third, and fourth, as Marwan Mafta has broken away still by some 8 seconds, make it 16 seconds over Tim Brokaw, second in that class. Believe these GTs are going to have barely 2 more laps.
Yeah, should be right about there at that 2-lap mark, and see Kevin Fanning here, and we're getting some, I don't know, I think that Kevin's doing a good job, maybe being a little bit cautious on showing his nose. I think he's just looking for the best possible opportunity.
Let's cut to the leader for just a second because this will be close. Lazier is coming around right now through the S's. So no, this will be the last lap of the race this time by. Lazier will take the white flag this time around, which means that the GTs that we just saw just took 2 laps to go. Here comes Lazier out of 11. White flag. 1 more lap to go with Sonoma. Here in Simcar. Meanwhile, back to this battle for second because this is the most intriguing battle. Kingsbury in second. Fanning hanging right behind in third. Marshbanks just sitting there in the 4th spot as they make their way to the white flag.
You see how deep Kevin Fanning just took it on the brakes, and it actually sets him up potentially for an over-under here. This is as close as he's been to Ray Kingsbury, but turn 1, turn 2, difficult spot to make a pass.
Here they come to turn 1. Stays in line, tries to set him up, flashes as Chris Wetz has gone off for a second time. Here they come. Through turn 2. Up the hill to 3. Oh man, Flynn Lazier about lost it in turn 10. Here he comes through 11. We'll cut away from the battle just for a moment. They go through 4. Flynn Lazier is just having fun right now, and there's no reason why not. He wins in wine country. He wins at Sonoma. Here's Fanning all over the back bumper. In the S's. For the final time, Christian Youngwall is in the last corner. He's going to win the GT Pro class. Here's the battle for second. Fanning all over the back bumper. He's going to have one more shot going to turn 11. on the back wing. Kingsbury overdrives just a little bit. Is the gap too much? Defensive line, Fanning around the outside. Will this work? Kingsbury gets the better power off. Fanning can't hold there. Ray
Excellent
Kingsbury
job.
in a thriller holds on to second place.
Nice stuff.
Where's Mofta at? Here he comes. He's in the S's to win the amateur class through 10. And Marwin Mofta with a great run tonight from Sonoma. He'll come around through 11. He'll take the checkered flag in the GTM class. And the final couple of stragglers will get to the line as well. Mofta, winner in the GTM class. Tim Brokaw is going backward. I'm sorry, he's on the drag strip. It was just scoring him as, yeah, he went the wrong way down the drag strip. Incredible. There you go. So Flynn Lazier, your winner. Justin Malillo is on the podium in second place. Kristen Youngwall wins the GT Pro class in the Audi. A couple of BMWs finish off that podium with Kingsbury and Kevin Fanning. John Marshbanks is back there. Cody Cosgrove, who picked up 9 spots since the drop of the green flag. By far the biggest mover. He finishes in 7th. Matt Kingsbury, 8th. J.J. Wang finishes in 9th. And Marwin Mofta winning the GTM class in the 10th spot in the Audi.
Awesome job from Marwin Mofta out there. Trevor Greenfield coming home here, 11th overall. Then you see the next AM, Tim Brokaw. And got Robert Lowry, Chris Wetz, and then the rest of these just multiple laps down as we get through them. Brian Son, Nate Stewart, Gary Freeman, Blake Reynolds, who has been nice enough to join us here for the rest of the race, and Paul Mikolajczyk, Josh Ondo, Daniel Miglin, and Jeff Johnson.
Yeah, Jeff Johnson did not take a lap at all tonight, so not quite sure how that'll be scored, but nonetheless, officially 21 cars took the green flag.
Well, this was an
Wow.
exciting little circuit. I can tell you what.
Yeah.
The prototypes, very fast lap time. Fastest we saw was in the high 1 minute 0. I believe it was an 8 by Nate Stewart early in the race there. And the GTs too, a 1 minute 10. Not surprising. I believe that's faster than Cup cars. So, yeah.
All right, so we'll talk with our first place in GT Pro, as we're just having drag battles right now. This is
I love it.
Brokaw, and I think that's it. Yeah.
I mean, how often do you get to see the GT3 cars run quarter mile times, and we're seeing it with Tim Brokaw.
Yeah, so we'll go around, do another lap, and cut off at turn 4. But let's talk with Christian Youngwall. Your podium overall. He finishes 3rd place overall, but first in the GT Pro class. And Christian, you were class of the field tonight in that GT Pro class, both in the sprint and in the endurance. Is there anything that really could have held you up?
I mean, a couple of the times the LMDHs, the BMWs, they were, I mean, they're not at like full tilt here. They have to like be a little more cautious, and they have a lot more speed, and they catch up on the GT3s like that. So, I mean, for us, we're on the limit the entire time, whereas they have a lot more downforce or stuff. So a couple of the corners where they could easily flat out, no problem. We're like, you could see a couple of, like in our, when we were discussing, a couple of guys got, well, we got sent on, but it was just sort of a faster corner. But I mean, the car gets so loose here on so many corners with just a side-by-side, not even dirty air. So, I mean, if the LMDHs were, I guess, I mean, I know like at least 3 of them had an incident, so I'm lucky I didn't get caught up with anything. But I think that would have been the biggest thing. But besides that, too, I know Ray was really keeping with me for a while, especially during the sprint, and Kevin and John, too. So I'm not sure exactly if traffic played a big factor for them. It didn't seem to affect me. So I just had fun out there. I thought it was good. Seemed to be relatively clean from everyone, and it seemed like a good time.
Well, we get to go to Daytona here in a couple of weeks, the World Center of Racing, and I imagine that's got to be the top spot as far as this style of racing, the endurance style of racing, going to Daytona. Are you excited to go to Daytona next week?
Oh yeah, love Daytona. I mean, you never have a bad race GT3 there. It's always, everyone's bumping each other, everyone's side by side a lot. You're constantly diving into corners because they're meant for it after long straights. So it really, really plays for good battling, good fighting, good teamwork too. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I know the Audis are relatively okay there. I think the BMWs might have a little more strength than us, but I think if we do some teamwork and just, get a right setup, I think we'll have a good chance at battling, and maybe we'll have another 1-2 or something like that. Well, I mean, we only had it for the sprint, but maybe, we don't know. We'll see.
Well, Christian, congratulations on the win tonight in your class, the P3, the podium overall, and see you in a couple of weeks from Daytona.
Thank you.
That's Christian Youngwall, your winner in the GT Pro class, and the winner of GTM, Marwin Mufta, joins Joey.
Marwin, congratulations on the full AM sweep at Sonoma. That's pole, heat race win, and feature win for you.
Yeah, it was a pretty good race. It was fun. I was hoping to do a little bit better, but it came all out well at the end.
Well, now you talk about wanting to get better, and that's always something a driver wants to do. Where did you feel like you fell short out there? Because watching you, I felt like you had a pretty good race.
So yeah, there was two major things. The pit rotation came out wrong. I think I lost 2 or 3 positions just getting in and out. I think we need to practice that more, and I did a huge mistake, but thankfully managed to save it and keep it on track. So yeah, need more practice.
Well, and looking forward at the future stuff here in a couple weeks, how do you feel visiting some of these other tracks that we're visiting or that we're going to, especially since Sonoma's kind of a one-off here with the type of racetrack that it is?
So again, I've been racing in the season for a couple of years, so a lot of those tracks I'm a bit familiar with. But again, everyone is doing a good job. There's a lot of practice sessions up, so just put the time in and focus on not crashing, pretty much.
Well, awesome job once again, Marwin, for the complete sweep out here in the GT AMs.
Thank you guys, and thanks for the good race.
Well, Jacob,
There you
that
have
was Marwin Mofta there, driver of the 191.
That it was, and no Flynn Lazier, but we do get second place. Justin Malillo, second place. I don't know if you expected to be here, but sometimes it doesn't matter how fast you are. It just matters on whether or not you keep the car clean. Am I right?
Well, that's my philosophy every week. I never expected to talk with the FTF.GG crew here over at SimCar League. This is a pleasant surprise that I am talking to you all, albeit for a second place. You guys usually talk to the winners, but I'll take it. By process of elimination, we have finished P2, best SimCar finish in my career so far, and all I got to do was not completely junk it like the 4 others that were much faster than me did.
Like me.
Like Blake.
I was going to push for a Justin Malillo interview, even if Flynn showed up. I just want to make that obvious. But we go to Daytona here in a couple of weeks. It seems like everybody that runs these cars has experience running at Daytona. So do you expect good things at Daytona in 2 weeks? Or I assume it's going to be the same old approach where it's going to be slow and steady wins the race.
Well, I don't expect to be 2 laps down at Daytona. I think I'll be a little bit closer to the rest of the field, just because I have driven that track a couple of times with the 24 hours of Daytona that iRacing puts on every year. And this is a really fun car to drive if you don't overdrive it and you don't do that weird brake thing that Blake was talking about earlier. It's a really easy car to screw it up, which I guess that's why I'm here talking to you guys tonight. Um, it's also a really fun car to drive if you are, patient with it and don't overdo it. And I think when we go to Daytona, I'm gonna have a little bit more confidence, and I might end up overdriving it. I'm just foreseeing that because I know me and I know my mindset when I go into some of these races. So I'll try to dial it down before we get there, and just remember that, hey, being 2 laps off the pace in a 45-minute race at Sonoma got you a second place, and we'll take that.
There you go. Well, Justin, congratulations on the second place tonight. We'll see you in 2 weeks from Daytona.
Thank you so much, Jacob.
That's Justin Malillo. And he'll go home with a second place finish here from Sonoma. Well, that was a solid night of racing here from Sonoma.
I loved it. I loved everything that we saw from the last lap in the feature to the from the last lap in the heat to the strategies that we saw in the feature, and I think it's just what SimCar brings, just fantastic racing every time they hit the track.
Of course.
No doubt about it. Yeah.
SimCar is fantastic. I wonder who owns that.
Must
who
be some
puts
guy
that
that
on.
wrecks the race car. Yeah, nonetheless. Well,
It tends to happen a little bit more often this season. I don't know why.
yeah, these things happen. Nonetheless, we'll see you in 2 weeks from Daytona. There's a lot more coming up on FTF, though. We'll see you for FTF1 tomorrow. But for Zach Johnson, our producer, Blake Reynolds, and Joey Atterbury alongside me, I'm Jacob Hitz. Flynn Lazier wins a wild one at Sonoma. We'll see you in Daytona in 2 weeks. Good night.